Audiobook presents an unabridged recording of Beyond the Black Stump by Nevil Shute, narrated by Davina Porter. This book is copyrighted 1956 by Nevil Shute, Norway, and renewed 1984 by Mrs. Donald C. Mayfield. This recording is copyrighted 1988 by Recorded Books. When Stanton Laird, American geologist, goes prospecting for the Topeka Exploration Company in the savage Australian outback, he finds something a good deal more precious than oil. And now, Beyond the Black Stump.
My mother used to say to me, "When you grow up, my son, I hope you're a bum like your father was, 'cause a good man ain't no fun. Stonecutters cut it on stone, woodpeckers peck it on wood. There's nothing so bad for a woman as a man who thinks he's good." From Carousel, Oscar Hammerstein II. Chapter 1. A number of substances that are trapped in the Earth's crust will influence a Geiger counter sufficiently to set it clicking, and one of the feeblest of these influences is oil imprisoned in a salt dome or an anticline. Stanton Laird sat in an office of the Topeka Exploration Company Incorporated on the 18th floor of the Topex building in Cedar Street in downtown New York City and explained his work again to Mr. Sam Johnson. He believed that the work he had done upon his own initiative in analyzing the radioactive indications at the bottom of the pilot drillings at Abu Kaya had shortened the seismic observation program by some weeks, and had brought the No. 3 well to production so much sooner, and this was the first bore on that site to produce oil in commercial quantities. He had explained this previously to Mr. Johnson in a fairly lengthy report that he had typed with sweating, gritty hands in the hut beside the oil rig where he had lived with the drilling crew, and he had known as he typed that Mr. Johnson would either be too busy to read it at all, or, at best, he would skim it through and merely study the conclusions at the end. In fact, he had done the latter, and he had forgotten all the detail. Only a vague impression on his mind remained that Stanton Laird was a good youngster who didn't sit around complaining of the heat, but got on with his job. Mr. Johnson didn't say much while the young man talked, for the simple reason that he couldn't trust himself. Like all oil executives, he had a general knowledge of petrology, but he had never himself been a geologist. He had come into the oil industry 40 years before as an organic chemist, but he had been an executive of Topex now for many years, and his organic chemistry was 30 years out of date and half forgotten. In dealing with the young technicians who worked under his control, he had developed a technique of making them do the talking while he sat back and listened, encouraging them on with phrases such as "surely," or "that sounds reasonable to me," or "Dr. Streeter was working on this last fall. I'd like you to have a talk with him." In this way, he maintained the fiction that he understood what Stanton Laird was talking about, while his acute subconscious mind summed the young man up and filed the essential data that would determine his advancement in the Topex organization. Long years of practice had made him clever with these phrases, so that Stanton Laird believed that his painstaking techniques had made a good impression on his boss. In that he was correct, but not quite in the way he thought. His techniques meant little to Mr. Johnson because he didn't fully understand them, but his approach to the job and his industry meant quite a lot. Presently the older man glanced at the clock, which showed 10 minutes past noon, and steered the conversation to a close. "I guess we'll go and get some lunch," he said. "Which hotel are you staying at?" "I checked my bags," the young man said. "I've got a friend has an apartment in Peter Cooper Village. I'll call him later on, see if he's got a bed." "Didn't you get in yesterday?" Stanton shook his head. "We got a 20 hours delay at Lisbon. They had to change a motor on the plane." Mr. Johnson glanced again at his technician. He had always been a pale young man, with very short mousy hair and little colour in his face. 3 years in Arabia had bronzed him to a deep yellow rather than a brown. He seemed more adult and self-reliant than when he had last sat in that office, but he didn't look very well. Perhaps that was fatigue. "What time did you get in?" I'd say we landed around 8 o'clock, the young man replied. I took a shower at the airport and came on into town. Get any sleep on the way over? Not very much. Mr. Johnson pressed a bell on the side of his desk, and when the girl came in, sleek and young and well-groomed, he said, Sharon, call the club and tell them I'll be bringing a guest in for lunch. Table for 2. I'll be right over. The young man's eyes flickered quickly over the stenographer, a motion which didn't escape the notice of his boss. 3 years in Arabia was tough on a young man. When the girl had gone out, Mr. Johnson said, Have any trouble with your health? Not a thing. You don't have to if you stick by the rules. I'm glad to be out of it.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.